of the Huron Board of Education. If you could call the roll.
Mrs. Hartley, Mrs. Henners,
Here.
Mr. Rager, here, Dr. LaFay, and Mrs. Mast.
Here. If everyone would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is right over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we need an approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Lamberios?
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yes. Right. Next, we are on item number 3, which is our audience community participation. I believe we only have one person that would like to speak this evening. If you, is that Mr. Biddlecombe?
Yes.
If you'd like to approach the podium, William, and go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am William Biddlecombe. I sit on the Huron City Council, and it's now midterm for me. I just wanted to let you all know that, again, for the next 2 years, I have been promoted to the school board liaison for the city council. So I'm here to work with you guys and enjoy the next 2 years. And to those in the audience, our meeting is tomorrow night at 6:30. Please come out. I'd love to see a crowd like this there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Biddlecombe. All right. Item number 4, our administrative reports.
Yes, so tonight we're going to start with a presentation from Mr. Kamela, our athletic director. And so you can take it away. And if you can use, the mic, that'd be great.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call up Chris Heidel, Jaden Towns, and Cameron Cam Manor at this time. All right. What we're doing here is recognizing our All-Ohio athletes from the fall season. And this year we have 3. Chris Heidel in soccer, Jaden Towns in cross country, and Cameron Manor in football. First up, Chris Heidel. Chris has been named to the Ohio Scholastic Soccer Coaches Association Division III All-Ohio. He's also been recognized by United Soccer Coaches All-Region Player. Additionally, Chris came to my office identifying the fact that he felt he earned recognition with the OHSAA under under soccer for, in this case, the category of most assists in a game, or most assists in season, and most assists in a game. I wasn't actually familiar with that, but as he brought it to my attention, I reached out to Tim Street at OHSAA, identifying or emailing him the records and stats that Chris helped or provided to me. So with that, it was approved, and the OHSAA.org under the tab Sports and Tournaments Boys Soccer, he is now listed there along with the others as most assists in a season, 35, and most assists in a game, 7. So I'd like to present Chris with, in recognition of being on the OSSCA or OHSAA's Division III Soccer First Team All-Ohio. Congratulations. Next up, we have Jaden Towns. Jaden has been recognized or is an All-Ohio Division III All-Ohio Cross Country on Division III All-Ohio in Division III. Under the number of participants in 3 divisions in cross country, certainly says a lot in that sport that you earn All-Ohio recognition. You have to place at minimum 30th, and she did that. So I'd like to congratulate Jaden in recognition of being on OHSAA Division III Cross Country All-Ohio. I'd lastly, we have Cameron Manor in recognition of Division V football, All Ohio. Cam is also a soccer player, and then he moonlights on the football team as our place kicker, field goal kicker extraordinaire. Chris has been recognized as Division V as a kicker, and interestingly enough, he kicked a 50-yard field goal this season. He knows well enough what the record is, and that is a 54-yard field goal. Well, being there and seeing it, I don't see any problem with it. Just give him the opportunity, he'll kick it. And then we got to, I would get in the end zone when I'd see him kick the extra point because he likes to hit the scoreboard. I think we need a net like the NFL does. But this season, he literally took a piece out of it. So I retrieved that and then went over to the sidelines and gave that to him. And Cam, you still have that piece today? Yes, he does. Okay. Well, Cam, I'd like to congratulate in recognition of being Division V football All Ohio. Nice job. Thank you, everyone. Okay.
Julie, can we take a picture of the kids? Yeah. Do you want them back by you?
You guys scoot this way.
You guys want to come by? Come behind, yeah.
Thank you. I didn't get to talk to you. You can hold up your awesome. Thanks, guys. Does this even-
Or we already did it. Yes, you're up.
Your
Okay,
turn.
so in December, I was part of a superintendent council where the goal of that was to talk about issues in the school with students to give them more hands-on interaction with that. So we went to all three schools. We went to Woodlands, McCormick, and the high school, and we talked about with like the younger ones what like they liked about school, and then what they didn't like about school. And then with McCormick, we talked about kind of the same thing, but they were a little more in depth since they were older. And then I feel like at the high school, we had like the most discussion about like maybe changes they wanted to see in the high school and stuff. And then tomorrow, we actually, no, 2 days from now, we have Wednesday, we have our second meeting with them. So with Woodlands, we're going to be talking about what parts of the community they like and what they think makes a good community. And then with the McCormick age group, we're going to be talking about what they like in the classroom and how they like to learn with school. And then at the high school, we're going to be talking about like aspects of a school building that they like and what they want to see incorporated in with like student areas in the school. So, and then we have one more meeting in February, which we're still trying to figure out after how tomorrow or Wednesday goes. So,
That's perfect.
okay.
Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy. All right, we are on to Dr. McDonald.
Good evening. So, with January, besides a little bit of snow and ice, also brings the turn of the calendar where we start planning for actually school year 24-25. So, a couple things you'll see on the high school course selection guide. Once that is approved, that moves the high school into scheduling mode. So, counselors will start working with the students on picking out their classes next year, and we'll on the back end start working with NOWACA to get all that stuff moving. Hard to believe it's here already. Also, we will be looking at summer professional learning for our staff. Recently, like the last 2 weeks, we've gotten new guidance from DEW about the requirements for training of all staff in regard to the science of reading. which of course is not the same training that was required for the dyslexia law. So we are working through that to see what we can do to meet that mandate. That has to be finished by the end of the 24-25 school year. So we have a year to finish that. Also, as you know, we are really ramping up our curriculum conversation around our reading adoption. I've been in touch with a couple of other districts that are using products that we're interested in to talk with their staff and potentially go see it in action. Our staff has asked to go see the people who are doing the work and in the trenches with it. So we've narrowed our focus to about 3 different core programs, and then also to, as you know, our supplemental programs also have to be on the approved list. Both approved lists are not released by DEW yet. So we've been using a couple other tools at our disposal to narrow those conversations down. So with that, we keep moving forward. The master scheduling conversation we were supposed to have last week is postponed to this week. I was going to update you on that, but I'll get back to you about that. We have some good conversations in the works between all the buildings. So we're just gearing up. So
Thank you, Dr. McDonald. Next, we will move on to Mr. Limberios.
Right. So in your financial packet, you received through December 2023. That's halfway through the fiscal year, so we're looking at everything being around 50%. As far as revenues go, all funds were at 46%. General fund revenues were at 41%. Expenditures were at 46% of all funds and 47% of general funds. There were 3 payrolls in December. I believe Betty mentioned that to you guys last time. Donations for the month, I believe she also mentioned this too, but we'll point it out again because it's pretty awesome. There was a donation, $41,372.16 from Carol Wolf to the music program for 50 brand new uniforms and 50 new raincoats, and the rest of it to be used at the band director's discretion. She did set up a new fund for this, so that'll all be tracked separately. There's also an annual renewed resolution on there for threshold for federal funds. It's on there. We're going to look into that. I'm not sure if you guys need to approve that every year. Me and Betty were talking about that earlier. It's on there this year. It doesn't hurt anything to approve it. So we'll just go ahead and move forward with that. Recommended action to also allow the food service director to donate dated produce to nonprofit organizations. I think that's something you must have ran into coming up on winter break and stuff like that. So we wanted to put that in there. The FY23 audit has been completed. I don't know if you guys have received that in an email yet. If you haven't, you will soon. I went into the website and updated all the new board member information and my information. So that should be coming out shortly. That's what I have for you guys.
Dr. Tapman?
All right, excellent. So January, well, let me back up. Ohio School Board Association is the state level guidance group that supports public school boards with operation. So January is School Board Appreciation Month. And so they sent little certificates of appreciation. More than the certificate, though, is a sincere appreciation for what the school board members do. There are most times that it's a thankless job, but through their exemplary leadership and service to the public schools, we continue to the tradition of Huron being an excellent school district and making it better. So I'll present these to you now, and thank you guys for your service. And yeah, we're promoting School Board Appreciation Month with social media, but also on the new marquee out front. So when you drive by on Cleveland Road West, you will see some appreciation there. So we can take your picture by it if you'd like, but we can also skip that. All right, just a few highlights from the the items on the agenda recommended by the superintendent. One is that there's a contract for a cyber security audit service, and so this is through a third-party provider that we currently don't have services with, and they'll provide an unbiased assessment of our systems, making sure that we're not only compliant with the minimum standard that we have to be through those various, SIPA compliance standards, but also best practices. And so once they complete that, we'll review the results and make changes where necessary. The other is with Lorain County Community College agreement for CCP. So the majority of our students attend BGS Firelands for CCP coursework or earn that credit while attending courses here. But there are the occasional course that BG does not offer and Lorain County does. And so having this agreement in place allows for our students to participate in their coursework as well. Also on the agenda under personnel, he's here. I'd like to thank Mr. Camella for his years of service with Huron as our athletic director. He's been in that role since 2012, and so I thank him for his service and also wish him the best as he enters retirement. So, thanks, Steve. And then the last item under personnel is a recommendation for employment of our new utility bus driver. So this was a position that we've determined necessary. So we did lose a driver right before the start of the school year. The drivers worked well with Chad to redesign the routes so we could go with one less route. So we were able to find someone interested in this opportunity. He's going through training right now, but the idea is not that we're going to restore that route and go back to the service structure we had prior. We're going to have this person available for sub-service, trip service, or covering routes so other drivers can take trips. Especially in the spring, we sometimes have baseball, softball, or track. They'd have to leave early so that the bus can come back and then run the route. With this new utility bus driver, that will allow our students to stay in class longer, and then the trip can go closer to the start of first pitch, or how do you start a track meet? I don't know. So that'll be a nice service, and we'll see how it works out here for the rest of the school year. So unless there's any questions, those are the items I have.
Motion for approval of items 5 through 7.
So move.
Discussion? Questions? Mine is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. LaFay, for noticing that. Other questions related to items 5 through 7? Will Simvey, the cyber audit that we're doing, they'll be working with Lyle?
Yeah,
Go through all that?
Yeah, so their audit takes 40 to 60 hours, and it's inclusive of interviews of different staff, like our tech staff through Vincent, but then also, secretaries, office staff, others who have their hands in, administration of the technology services. Yep.
Right. Else has any other questions or discussion? Mr. Lindarios?
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay, Mrs. Mast.
Yes. Thank you. All right, item number 9, the policy.
Yeah, so 9A policies, we have 34, so 2 to rescind and 32 to revise policies. The majority of these, if not all of them, are based on recent legislative action at the state level. So you can see the references of House Bill 33 or others. Some of them are small word changes. Others have more implications because of changes from the legislation. So I don't. Admin reviewed them, and then Stacy Henners reviewed them with me as the board liaison for policy. So I don't know if there's any questions. The idea then would be at the February regular meeting, they'll present for a second reading and then approval. So,
And item B.
be the show, right?
And then before we start with item B,
Yeah.
We need to decide, I guess, as a board, if there will be an opportunity for community to ask questions of AVG once they give their presentation, because it's not really in public participation discussion. I believe that if we decide to allow that, we can. But we just need to decide that as a board beforehand. I mean, I feel like we should.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity in my opinion.
Do we need to make a motion for that, or we can just allow it? Okay, awesome. Okay.
So I'll just, I guess, start it off with, in 2021, Huron partnered with the Ohio Facility Commission, Construction Commission, yeah, OFCC, and they did a comprehensive facility assessment of our district, and they provided a report that detailed our facilities, where they are currently, and what they recommend. And so that has kind of been sitting there on the shelf. The next step was last year through work group. The board approved master facility planning with AVG Architect Visionary Group. And so the first step of that process is for validation of that report from OFCC. So they've spent a good amount of 2023 assessing the building, and they've presented a report of findings, and they're here tonight to kick it off and share the findings. So I turn it over to them.
Thank you.
For the original report, because I couldn't find it in the end.
Oh, yeah.
We could keep.
Go together.
Done? All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Syed Abbas, and I'm one of the principals at Architecture Vision Group, AVG. With me is Murtaza Abbas. He's a project manager. Kevin Trepop is our designer. On behalf of AVG, I would like to thank you for your time and thank you for your time, everybody's time over here. So last year we were given opportunity to look at the buildings over here in Huron City School. So we spent some time, myself, some other people from our office, our engineers, electrical, mechanical engineers. We walked all the three buildings with our engineers, and we went in every single room and every place. So the three buildings we looked at are is McCormick, Woodland, and high school over here. So we are going. This assessment is based. This evaluation is based on state guidelines, State of Ohio, Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and what they asked, and we have been working with them for a long time on other projects. But what they have set up is to look at, when you're looking at the building, they want to look at the building with all the systems which are installed in the existing building. So we call it A through W. It starts from heating, all the way to roofing, ventilation, electrical, plumbing, so forth, and all the way to technology, A through W systems. And there are guidelines set up by the state, and what they have done is the OFCC came into being in 1997. It was OSFC before, and they changed their name to OFCC. So they have set these up over a period of time, and what they have done is they have standardized it throughout the state. So whether you are looking at Huron or you are looking at some Toledo or Cleveland, the standards are the same when you are looking at the buildings to evaluate a building. Okay, so these are, and they also have set up some guidelines when you are looking at the building. What they want is to make sure that if whoever is the assessment architect or firm, they want to make sure that when you're looking at the building, you're looking for next 30, 35 years, because you're not looking right now for a short-term thing. So with that, they have developed some guidelines. Okay, if we are like for electrical system, if we are looking over here in this building, I'm just giving you while they're fixing that. So, so what they're saying is that if the building is 35, 40 years old, you have to look at the main electrical service, whether it is going to meet the needs of the future, in terms of air conditioning, transformers, whatever. So there are some guidelines to follow. So, and what Kevin has up on the screen is those guidelines. It says assessment cost guidelines, and these guidelines are updated every year. So this is the state of Ohio has been very dynamic. They've moved with the time, so, and they also the cost also. If you all have experience in last 2-3 years where the inflation has been and where the things have been, so they update these cost guidelines every year. So what we used for this assessment is 2023 cost guidelines. Okay, and these are all A through W, and these are on state website. If anybody wants to take a look at it, they can go on the OFCC website and look at it. So we use these because these basically covers mostly all the systems which are in a building, So just to give you a little background of it. We are going to talk about, we can talk about all three buildings. It's up to you how much time you want to spend. But we can start with the high school over here first, and you can, if you want, we can go to the other buildings. So we looked at the high school. It's built in 19, Kevin. 58, and then it was added on over a period of time. So this is just a general description. If you have the time, we have the report over here with the district, and you can read through. But this is just a description, what the systems are, what the areas are, what kind of construction it is. That's just a general. So our mechanical engineer looked at the heating system, electrical looked at the electrical system. So according to the mechanical engineer, it tells you the description, what kinds of system you have, what kind of boilers you have, how old are the boilers, and what needs to be done. So if you look at, can you go, there's a recommendation. So in this case, he's saying in this high school, the whole mechanical system needs to be updated. Okay. So if you plan to do, this is recommendation. Doesn't mean that you have to go with that, but that's their recommendation for next 50, 35, 40 years. So
this is identifying strictly what's here. It's not looking at, making additional spaces, making just purely what.
as it is right now, yeah, and there's a cost to it, $50 a square foot or whatever. That's how this number came together, based on our recommendation for HVAC system or electrical. Next, they have some guidelines. If the roof is that many years old, and so you have to replace that after certain years. So that's the recommendation for the roofing. So, and also not only that, because this is a building which has been there for a long time, the building code has changed. The roofing system, we used to have drains, and there was an accident happened in Cleveland when one of the gym collapsed. So since then, last 15 years, they have asked us to put secondary drains so if there is a clog somewhere in the drain, the water can go to the second. So when we are looking at the system, we are looking at the current code requirement also. So that's the roofing system over there. Air conditioning and heating is covered in one, but there is exhaust system which, if it's not meeting the code, they have price for that over there. Electrical system, again, as I said earlier, over here they think the electrical engineer is saying that it doesn't meet the current bill requirement. So that's what. Now that doesn't mean that you are grandfathered right now. You don't have to change, but if you renovate that, or if you do improvements over here, that's what you will be needing to do. Same thing for the plumbing system. They want to make sure that the code requires low flow fixtures. Means if you know from your house, you have a smaller tanks over there. There is a requirement by the code now, and not only that, everything has to be handicap accessible and things like that. So there's a cost for that. There's the water line in this building has the old water line, which has some copper and some galvanized pipe. So when we look at the thing, we put a cost for replacing the galvanized pipe, replacing the sanitary system, which is 60 years old. Same thing for the windows. Most of the windows over here you replaced a few years ago, but there's a certain area in the back which needed replacement, which has single pane glass. And although the window looks good, but now in the new code, what they are saying is that the outside frame of the window and the inside frame of the window has to be thermally separated. So the heating and cooling is not transferred. These are good, the ones you have, but certain areas you still need to replace those. Structural system, I think is this the foundation? Okay, so we put money we know that there was some problem over here last summer, and we when we walked the site, we looked at it, you know. So we want to fix that if you or you want to fix that if you want to do something over here. Not only that, you have a crawl space, and the crawl space has to be waterproofed also. You know. That's the recommendation related to that item. Tuck pointing, after certain time, the masonry joints get open because freeze and thaw cycles, you know, over 50, 60, 70 years. So the lintel gets start rusting. Back 50, 60 years ago when we used to put lintels, they were not galvanized. Now, if you look at the new last 20, 25 years, they're all galvanized lintel on the outside. The galvanizing doesn't allow the rust to start. Once the rust starts, the lintel loses its strength. You know. So we picked up some lintels which needs to be replaced. Flooring, looks great. General finishes, again, when you are updating this building, we call it for a total replacement of finishes, you know, because you may, if you want to spend money, you may want to do things differently than what you're doing. Coming to the new 21st century learning model and all that. So that's how we look at, and that's how the state also wants us to look at. So we have a complete replacement of finishes suggested over here. Now, whether you do it or not, that's all districts, up to districts, you know, what they decide to do. But that's what, yes, ma'am.
Hi, if I can jump in real quick, I just, for the benefit of the audience, James, we'll make this report available, right, in some format so that if folks, because we're going through a lot of information quickly, that if folks want to access this and really dig in, that we'll make it available.
Yes, we'll have a digital version and we'll post it on the website so people can view it there or download it and view it at their leisure. But yeah, we'll make it available for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here lighting, now it's LED lighting is common lighting right now. So if you do renovations, that's what you will do. Security system, although you do have a good security system, which you have, but when you do renovations and when you take ceilings out, when you take new HVAC out, then it's going to be totally redone. And technology changes every 5 years, pretty much. So when we go to schools and when we go to buildings, we normally put all new technology in there anyway, because by the time you pass a bond issue, by the time you have the building up and running, it will be a number of years, and you already have system in place, which is already, when I buy a phone, it's already behind, you know, because there's a new version out there. Emergency lighting, what the code requires is that you need to have emergency lighting, which you have, but those are sometimes battery packs, but they want to put you on a generator. So you don't have generator right now, but we have put money in there to, if you renovate, you will have a generator, and all your essential like phone and technology and all that is tied to the generator. Kitchen equipment is freezer, cooler. You lose power, you don't lose things, you know. So. What happens is there's a trigger effect, you know. I'm just giving you a lot of information in a very short time. What happens if you are replacing HVAC system in this building? So right now you may have unit ventilators which are on the wall and all that. So the more efficient system is a system with forced air. So you will have duct work and return air ducts and all. So what happens is all the ceilings come down to make those things happen, you know. When the ceilings come down, the lights come down. The new code also requires to have a fire suppression system. So when you put the so there's a domino effect. You follow? If you are doing HVAC, then you are going to be doing other things also. ADA accessibility, they want to make sure everything is ADA compliant, you know. From signage all the way to, you have an elevator, but that's not compliant, you know. So that's why we put money for, if you do renovation, you will put it was okay at that time when it was done, but the new one has to be compliant. We have site, I mean, you already know there's a site issue, drainage issue, so that we made sure that there's money for drainage to be done if you fix this building. Any issues on sanitary? But what we have is a new water line for a fire suppression line, because it needs certain pressure and it needs certain flow in the pipe. So the next item you will see that. Exterior doors, most of the doors look good. There are certain few doors, entry doors that need replacement. So this is asbestos or related items, you know, those need to be replaced. Life safety, as I mentioned, sprinkler system, hood, which kitchen hood, which needs to be type 2, is type 1, which the difference between is these things are tied with the auto shut off and auto sprinkler and all that. This furnishing, the guidelines is that when you are doing, if a district is doing this kind of renovation, and it is just to our discretion to decide how much money we should be allowing, or they ask us, what do you think the district should do? So we give, in our opinion, we give money over there so that if you want to replace total furniture, so everything is matching and everything is working together and everything is right height, and maybe you want to change it because now people like to stand up and work, and so there's a money put in the project to do all those things. Technology, as I said, technology is total replacement of technology. So this is the summary of all the cost we have for that for the high school. And then this is what you see in the bottom is, and I'm so that is this, we call it hard cost. Okay? It is bricks and sticks, 38. Then what you see over here, contingency. Any project you do, you put contingency in there. You know, we don't know right now. We have not opened walls. We don't know anything. So you put money set aside for contingency. And what we have over there is design contingency for if you decide that you want to move walls and make this room different than what it is, then money in the 30 million for moving walls and doing design contingency. And then and this is the number 3 is your discretion. I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years we have seen inflation, and that is we are putting inflation for 24, 25, or 25, 26, if you want to go there. Up to you. We just show as a line item. Okay? And then the soft cost is consultants fee, construction managers fee, or lawyers fee, and other. So that those are called. This all what you see over here is a soft cost. Analysis over here is if you were building the same building, same size building today, it will cost you $36.8 million, and that means if you renovate, it's going to cost you 84% of the new construction cost of the same size. It's just the ratio we are talking. That's a state rule is that if you are over 66%, 67%, you shouldn't be putting good money. That's what the Malaysia. That doesn't mean that you if you are not going with the state, you can renovate this building. They are not stopping you, but that's just the ratio to show you. And to demolish it, there is a cost for demolition in there. So again, these are all options for you to decide and community to decide.
Was that 36
Wherever you build that size of building over here in the site, but now whether you want to just have a high school, we will show you some options and you can take a look at it.
I just didn't know if that was contingent.
Oh, no, no, just
Replace as random.
random.
Yeah, so site to site's obviously gonna differ with, so it's looking strictly at the building.
Okay, I don't know, you can. And elementary school, that is 88% ratio. McCormick is almost. Same, what I just explained is the same thing we have done for McCormick, and same thing we have done.
About kind of where we're at so far before we move on to kind of the next phase. Thank you.
So I guess you kind of answered it, but the one question I had was like the cost guidelines. So you said that's 2023,
Yes,
but then recognizing there's inflation, so there's that contingency of.
that's why we have put that.
Yep. And then when we talk about renovation costs, so we renovate the building, it's gonna then feel like it's a new building as far as all the systems are concerned.
Systems are concerned, but you have the same layout unless you use
Spatial configuration.
spatial configuration.
Right.
If you are looking at students and learning and all the other things which are out there right now, that depends how much changes you want.
Right.
But we have
So
put some.
yeah, so when we think about like an instructional uses of the building, like when the building was originally designed and built in '64, we didn't have kids with one-to-one devices. We really didn't have teachers with devices. I mean, so all of that technology is relatively new, and so a different layout might be more beneficial for the learning impact. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if there's other questions, but.
So those costs are just assuming just the. So like those costs are just this proposed costs
It's just,
So if there was a building that like put a if you kept like if you created a 612 building, what would those costs look like? Because it wouldn't just something in between, right?
They have some other options they're gonna go
there's
through
some
too.
options.
No, you're fine. That's a great question. They,
Following the logic of where
Yeah.
this assessment is going. I'm sorry.
No.
this wasn't out there before, so
This is a perfect leading question, it sounds like.
it's perfect.
So in this is option number one. If you do a PK drive, okay.
Hold on, Kevin. Like I add up the square footage for Woodlands, McCormick, and the high school, and it's just under 200,000 square feet. But the new pre-K 12 is only 163 and some change square feet, right? So part of that is like because McCormick has an auditorium and a gym, but if we only had one building, we wouldn't need
Three kitchens.
we wouldn't need
and
three kitchens.
Cafeterias. So it's efficiency is different, you know, if you're one versus two. Same thing is for operations also.
Right? And then the formula is based on student enrollment. And so if we look at student enrollment 10 years ago, we were close to like 1,500 students. So that would have led to a larger building. But now our enrollment is what it is. It's 1175. And it's anticipated to basically flatline. So this would be a smaller building than what would have been proposed 10 years ago. Right. Okay.
If we have these three schools, then they will have at least. What it is not telling you that you cannot add third gym or just the money you will be spending more, you know. So when you are part of the state program, then there are different rules, you know, that you have to follow their rules. And even if you follow their rules, you can still build bigger than what you want.
These are based on square footage per student.
Per student. Yeah, if you look at this, if you look at over here, in elementary, separate building, the per square feet is different. You see, the square footage is tight, you know, for per student. This is
Spaces that
everything.
would be needed, so maybe something's being left out here, so we go through. More talk about what's actually going to be needed.
We need three gyms, for example, in a PK-12. So we just have to see, we get all the academics over there, all the science, math, arts, whatever spaces are. And then if the square footage is more than what we are showing, then it will be adjusted.
So does it help to talk at all about like the OFCC's role now and maybe their role later, depending on how we want to utilize them in this process? Because I know a couple people mentioned like New London or some of the rural school districts. Sandusky's another different, they might have a very different relationship with the OFCC than we might going forward. Just to kind of lay that out so that we're knowing what's an apple and what's an orange.
Right, yeah.
And all
So,
of this.
so I would say the last week on the radio, I heard about Norwalk that has the opportunity to build a new elementary school
Yeah, Maplehurst. Yeah.
with state funding 80% of that. So the local share would be 20%. So 20 cents on the dollar is what the local residents would have to pay for that new elementary school. That's going through an OFCC project. With OFCC and our work we've done so far, our state share is just under 6%. So we're floating around 5 to 6%. We can talk. I'm not necessarily ready to talk about the facts of that, other than I know that to be a fact, and that's a consistent number. It's not that we were somewhere different and we've dropped down or we're anticipated to jump up. They do that not based on the conditions of a building or the needs with regard to facility. OFCC bases its funding based on student enrollment and the valuation, the property valuation of a community. So how wealthy is a community in order to fund a project on their own compared to another community that might need more state support in order to do an equitable program. And so the double-edged sword with Huron is the state deems us as a wealthy community based on our property value and based on our student enrollment. So if we exploded with student enrollment and we had instead of 1,100 students, but we had 3,000 students, we might move up on that. We don't have any indication that that's going to happen to us, right? It might attract, right? It might attract open enrollment. Yeah, but to double us, even there, I mean, I could ask the state, if we doubled our enrollment, which is in theory, what would that do to our cost share? So there's that element that when we go to the voters to ask to support this financially, we're really asking them for a dollar for dollar investment, whereas other communities have the ability to ask for pennies on a dollar investment, and even those sometimes are hard asks. So, but yeah.
Right. So the good news with the OFCC is that this validation and things, they do these services for us for free, whether ultimately we bill with them or not. So over the last few years, we've chosen to we'll get everything we can for free for as long as it makes sense, and then we'll have a decision point, right?
Yep.
Are they still requiring some sort of lead?
All buildings are LEED.
So that's the other thing is LEED being like a green building standard, right? If you don't, it adds cost, right? And so if you're going through the OFCC, you have to meet those LEED standards. If you choose not to, you can make some different choices. Certainly we want a sustainable building, but we can make choices as to economically what makes sense. So there's times where you can even out that 6% that's on the table through choices we might make, having freedom that we wouldn't have if we were going through the OFCC. So I just want to lay that out there because I think our journey is going to be a lot different than what if we're traveling around the area for sports or whatever. I don't know that anybody, maybe Avon Lake is probably the closest. I don't know what their OFCC split is, but all these other schools are getting an amount of money that will not be on the table to us. And it is what it is, but I just think it's a baseline that we need to highlight early and often.
So this is the document which is on OFCC website, which Dr. Redman just talked to. This ranking comes out every year, okay? And so when I'm looking at Huron for the last 20 years, the needle hasn't moved that much, because we track off every year, and then we look at the last 20 years what happened to the district. So for students are less, and they think the wealth is there. uh, Maybe not in the school district, but the property value is there. So that's how they. So if you look at last 4 or 5 years, the equity list hasn't changed much. 6% right now.
Again, the dollar amounts for that would come to around 20.
Demolition and all.
It's just kind of giving you numbers off a strict. These options were showing 1, 2, 3. Maybe they're not the right option. Maybe there's a combination of these two options. Maybe these don't work for this study. What's the best solution? And then come to a final master plan. Yeah, I would say perfect. Yeah, these are starting points for conversations, and if land acquisition is necessary for building a new building or a new campus, then that adds to the cost. If we have existing land that we own and we build upon that, then there's still land development potential costs there, but not the acquisition piece. So yeah, so there is some acreage. This is almost 25 acres that we're on. It's configured a little funny how it's laid out with Jim Campbell rolling through the middle of it. And, that acreage includes a stadium and practice fields and those kind of uses. Woodlands has, I think it's 19 acres over there. There's some farmland that we rent out to a farmer to have some benefit from it from there. So there is potential there for some expansion on that property. We own the bus garage too, but you can't have a school in an industrial park, and it's I think a sliver. So yeah, it's really these two properties that has potential. Yep.
Do the math. How many acres?
Hold on, before you answer, could you repeat Jonathan's question? We got we're getting some feedback from people listening in that they can't hear the questions.
So the question from the audience was, what square footage is what acreage, thank you, what acreage is needed for this new building of like option 1 or option 2?
So I think again, the state makes recommendations. They're not going to hold you.
The state has recommendation 10-acre for elementary school. If it is an elementary school, 10-acre plus 1 acre per 100 students for the elementary. Middle school is 20 acres plus 1 acre per 100 students. So if it is 1,000 students, that means 30. You don't get that kind of land and anyway. So to answer your question, and high school is 35 acre plus 100, 1 acre per 100 students. So you have, if you have 35 acres and you have 2,000 students, you have 55 acres. But that's their recommendation. Nobody follows that because
Part of it is going to be that analysis.
nobody can afford that kind of a land, To answer your question, 19 acres at Woodland, have to see how the land is laid out, in terms of, and then what are you looking? Are you looking for the stadium? Just the stadium itself, the playing area is 2 acre, and all the ancillary areas are much more. So depending what facility, building is not going to be an issue, but what other ancillary, baseball, softball, stadium. Okay, so then it's doable. Those
Questions, as we look at this, there's all kinds of variables in there. What happens to students as this is being built? We have to keep them in.
Yeah, right. Summer.
I'm sorry, just so everybody, because we know we've got an audience at home.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
the question was, what's the timeline on this project, on a potential project? So from the time, what could we say? From the time finances are secured to the time we have students learning in it? That's a pretty big timeline, right?
it's a tough question, but minimum timeline is 3 years, a year in design and a couple of years. I think if we are doing phasing, like we have done other projects, it takes a little longer because you're moving. And we can take, that's why what we do is, if that's the district's vision is, then we do multiple outs, and see what works in terms. Obviously, bus traffic has to be separate, parents traffic has to be separate, all that to be considered, and then we see what is the best layout for the site. There will be several options for you to look at before you make that decision. 1 story, 2 story. Yeah, I mean, we have done it.
What we really want to do is, again, consensus as we go through the process. This is kind of moving along. Kind of where we're moving towards, and obviously there's so many factors going into all these. questions you're bringing up are very valid and they help us, we're take our time and think these things through very carefully now to get the best.
When you want to look at the last one,
That was this third plan. And again, is it the right one? Is it
I think, James, I'm not sure if this is the correct time to bring this up, but with all the conversation with the presentation, I believe our goal as a board and as a school district is to involve the community as much as possible in these discussions. Number one, with the formation of a committee that can meet, that can discuss, like, I'm sorry, your first name, Kevin. Like Kevin said, that, Huron's unique. What are the unique needs of Huron students? We don't want it just to be cookie cutter, but we want it to meet the needs of our students. So I think that's something that, we would challenge all of you that are here tonight to think about your level of involvement. Would you be willing to be on a committee? Would you be willing to, meet regularly and discuss this and talk about the needs of our community, our students? Would you be willing to be part of a committee that possibly at some point ask the community for a bond levy to fund something like this? So those are things that, we would love you to think about. It's thrilling to see this many people here interested in this discussion. So be thinking about that as you're sitting here, what your level of engagement would be, can be, what you're willing to commit.
Well, we know too, I mean, like civil engineering is going to be a big part of this, right? Because like we saw this year, even with something as simple as, consolidating Shawnee to Woodlands created traffic issues, right? Because we put schools in neighborhoods where how we all engage now with schools was not how they engaged when they built the schools, 50, even 30 years ago. So I think all of these things are not just what's good for the students, but what's good for the community. I think there's huge opportunity for us to think as a community, how can these school facilities be utilized fully, not just between 7 and 3 every day, or not just for sports, but for ways that I think much like the libraries, I think utilized fairly well for the whole community. How can we do that as well, so that whether I have kids in school or I'm a senior citizen, that what we're talking about building has value to everybody, as opposed to just it's an expense that everybody has to bear. So I think there's huge opportunity for us to find those efficiencies and ways to make this really a community, city Huron Township partnership, not just a school endeavor.
Schools are shifting to not just, for students, they're becoming part of the fact.
And so I could have led with this, I guess, but in leadership courses, you learn about two types of change. So there's technical change, and then there's adaptive change. And technical change is something that could still be really hard to do, but the solution is known at the onset, right? So to talk with Dr. LaFay's profession, there could be a new way to do brain surgery, and it is really complicated to do. But if you follow the steps and you follow the process, you can learn it, and then you can do it and you can repeat it. That is a technical change. The adaptive change is when you start a project like we're starting here, and the answer or the solution isn't in front of us. It's not, we just have to lift a bunch of things and recruit a bunch of people. It is truly, we need to listen to the community. We need to listen to the students. We need to listen to the parents. We need to listen to veteran residents and new residents and really learn from them. What is it that we want the school to be part of the community for Huron? And so we set that out. So tonight was really hearing from ABG about the structures and what did you say, the rocks and
Bricks and sticks.
Bricks and sticks, yeah. And then in February at the next meeting, or if we have a special meeting, we're going to hear from the other side of the coin, right? So this all looks great, you know, new buildings and 21st century learning. The other side of that coin is we have to pay for it, right? And some of these numbers, to me, are large and frightening, and knowing that we're paying the full amount. So February is going to have a presentation from a finance bond council group that's going to explain to us what our property valuation is, how that can go to fund a building, what other options, funding options through OFCC or others is available. So really with those two pieces, here's the big idea of the buildings, here's the big idea of the funding that we'll learn in February. That'll lead us into March, where the board has scheduled 3 work sessions, and they're really for community engagement. And so that's where we're hoping more than, you know, I am so impressed that all you guys are here tonight, and I'm hoping that as we get towards March, more and more people are going to show that interest and attend. So we can really hear from the community, you know, here's our reality on the funding and facility needs of the district. How does it work for Huron, and where can we move forward so that we can have schools for the next 30 to 50 years that we're proud of, that meet the needs of our students, that meet the needs of our community. And from those work sessions, then some more of this detail work might happen, right? If there's a lot of input and a lot of guidance and we get to a potential solution quickly, great. If we need to slow it down and have more sessions and have more community involvement and that work, then that's what we're going to do. Because we want to get it right. And we want to spend the energy and the time so that we can get it right. I know there's a sense of urgency. There has been. I've been here only 18 months, and I already feel like we haven't done enough yet. But it's a process that takes time, and we want to do it right. And so we're going to take that time to do it right. But yeah, so.
I can make one more point. Maybe it's an obvious one, but like, to me, the choice is between doing something, whatever that something is, and doing nothing. And doing nothing, I think the presentation today like revealed there's a huge potential cost to doing nothing, right? Like we are, and we're James has been here 18 months. We've had a flood in Shawnee. We've had a flood in this school. We've had a heater go out just last week. I mean, we are every like month to month waiting for kind of like, not to be over dramatic, but we're worried about what's the next calamity that's headed our way. I have 2 kids here at the high school. I hear about, you know, the water looks funny, or, you know, just little things, but they do kind of pull at you that at some point the cost of doing nothing, or even doing the bare minimum, kind of starts to like get close to doing something great, you know. And so I think people who know me know I'm not one to just throw money around or ask for tax money for fun. I think we're at the point where we got to make a decision on how we move, because otherwise, like, we're going to react to calamity versus, you know, kind of dictate our future for the next 50 years for our kids. And that doesn't feel like aligned with the values of this community at all.
And I would say too, so on these scripts from OFCC, we have, if you build a new building, you demo the other one. You demo the previous one. And obviously that's an option. The other is, there could be community uses for buildings, for existing buildings that could be reimagined by private or community interest groups. Obviously, I'm specifically talking about McCormick. I'm also talking about potential areas of this building could be reimagined as something else. So that demo, for the district could be a lower cost if there was some other community benefit for a building. So I don't want people at home watching this thinking, oh, they're going to take away my McCormick, my, what's he call that, Ohio Street School? Yeah. So anyways, no, but unless there's other questions, I want to thank AVG for the work they've done so far and the work ahead, and go from there.
Thank you very much.
And then, yeah, said once before, but we're working to build a specific facilities, master facility page on our website. And so hopefully by Friday we have that posted. This presentation will be there, as well as the OFCC report from 2021, as well as some other steps that we've done leading up to today. And then it'll grow as we grow into the work. So.
Any other questions regarding the building presentation before we move on? Okay, great. Our next order of business will be item number 10, which is executive session.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
So our next, I guess I'm skipping to 11, but our next regular meeting is February 26th.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to have this financial facility funding discussion then, or is there a sense of urgency, and do we want to have it sooner? The Monday the 12th could be an option. The following Monday is a holiday, so that's probably not an option.
If we did it on the 12th, could there potentially be some action that we could take on the 26th that would speed this process?
Yeah, so I would say that if we had it on the 12th, then on the 26th, we could spend some time designing how we're going to engage the community at those work sessions. So, we know the facility need, we know the financial facts, and so on the 26th, we can talk about when we meet with the community in March. We can give them a synopsis of tonight and that future meeting, and then starting, getting their input. Or, again, I don't know today how that's going to look and feel and function, but.
I like the feel of we've kind of started the momentum and keeping the momentum going and not waiting a whole nother month to continue that conversation. So I like the idea of February 12th.
Can we get this information and like the page up in relatively short order? Because I think in fairness, we want the community to be able to like digest some of this and then, hit the next step.
Yeah, I'll have that page up. I'll say by Friday, but really tomorrow, if I can make it work tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow. Yep. So.
12th to my calendar.
So as long as that's good for
6 p.m.
Yep. So we'll do the proper notice and all that, but with the audience here, February 12th. Put it in your calendars.
All right.
February 12th financials.
Financial.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. We need a motion to enter into executive session for the reason of. Hang on just a second. Sorry about that. We are entering into executive session for the reason of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, or student, unless such individual requests a public hearing. The board will not hold an executive session for the discussion of one of its members for conduct related to the performance of his or her official duties or for his or her removal from office. So I just need a motion to. Will there be action after?
I don't anticipate any.
Okay, we don't anticipate any action after executive session. Go ahead. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Sinners,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay,
Yes.
Yes.
7:25.
And just to reiterate, our next work session, which is open to the